Welcome to the Bible Seminary podcast. On today's episode, we will continue our Life of Faith series and hear from TBS co-founder and Reverend Paul Helbig. Let's join our hosts Karen Coolidge and Blake Quimby as we journey through the story of Reverend Helbig.
Well, currently we are sitting in Paul's den, and this is a place that's frequented by many people throughout the week. Yeah. So if you're listening and you're familiar with Paul's den, you know exactly what we're talking about.
A lot of premarital counseling is happening on the couch that you guys were sitting on.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having us.
It's great to be here.
And I know a lot of people who are listening right now know you and they love you. And so, first of all, we just want to know, Paul, how are you doing?
Most people who have MS, they have something called relapsing remitting, which basically means it gets bad, but it kind of goes down, and it's up and down. Mm-hmm. Mine, if you have a chart, just kind of is like that. You know, when you go on a roller coaster and you finally get to the top, and it just goes down. Mine just keeps going down, and it's not. The cool part about the roller coaster is it comes back up. My MS doesn't come back up, so physically it's whooping me, and it's not getting better. And so I would say that aspect does touch every aspect of it, because the emotional spiritual thing goes hand in hand with that. Because I can address certain things, is to sit there and think that things don't go through. First of all, how did this happen?
Right.
Right. And then all of a sudden, and we'll get to this, but it started with the same time the Bible Seminary classes started. The time that we actually started the first seminary class, not the Bible certificate classes. That's when things got bad. And then it's just been going downhill from there. But emotionally, you have moments where you're like, I'm in a lot better place now than I was before, because you're battling this coming out of the gate. Because first of all, I would say this when I did youth ministry to kids. People say they never ever have even thought about suicide or stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I don't trust it. Because you think through that kind of stuff, but you're also sitting there going, man, this sucks. What's on the other side? The other side's got to be better than this. But spiritually, you're sitting there going, no, I'm grounded now in what I believe. Is this guy Jesus real? Mm-hmm. Okay, so what happens to be or not to be? What happens on the other side? And stop being a pout and a snot, and you have much to live for, and you have 6 kids and a wife, and that kind of thing. So I would say that I'm in a much better place spiritually. I fight emotionally and physically, but spiritually, I have victory.
But it's been a process.
Yes, it has.
So through that, what can you tell us about suffering well? It's
Romans 5, suffering leads to endurance, and endurance, I do believe, is hope. And I love this because my daughter's name is Hope. And hope is a great line. Hope does not disappoint. Because I read my Bible, I teach my Bible, blah, blah. But it's like, that makes me go, that the ultimate thing I've learned about suffering is that with Christ, you have hope. And you take hope away, you'd have literally nothing left.
I know that we'll talk more about that, and I'm excited to hear some stories about your life. And we wanted to really, get to know the backstory, kind of where you grew. I know you were a New York guy, so what was your childhood like?
I'm from 9 kids, which are actually, some are cousins that were, my dad took guardianship over because he's the colonel, and if you have a problem, he's going to go and solve the problem. I have a great dad, had a great dad. He did not know the Lord. At the same time, he just believed in God, family, country. I know how to treat my wife because I watched my dad treat you don't mess with mom. And you just don't play with that. And it's it actually, I think I put something on Facebook. I was watching the Army-Navy game, and it was one of the few times I saw my dad cry. And I was watching it today, or on Saturday, and because we have Connor Serta is at West Point, and Luke Moffett is at Naval Academy in Annapolis. And I was just crying, and I was going, because during the national anthem, I'm going, I'm my dad. I'm my dad. I was a mediocre athlete and a mediocre student, worse than that as a student, because it was easy. I knew how to cheat your way through. What was special about where I grew up in upstate New York, not in the city, although I know a lot of people from the city. I put it this way, I did drugs with them, and went to college before they kicked me out together. And then I grew up on a lake called Keuka. It's a finger lake, and it's 20, 25 miles long, and it's just, I remember Lynn said, I saw pictures of it, and he's like, why did you leave?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so what I learned how to do well, because I didn't do athletics well, I didn't want to do school well. What I could do real well was get kids I could lead people in sin. I mean, I knew how to get a lot of kids together.
But you were a leader.
Oh, I was a leader.
Okay.
Yeah, yeehaw. But I was good at it. It's like hard to be good at school. It's hard to be good at athletics. Mm-hmm. I mean, what can I do well? I can sin well.
You can be bad.
I can do that well.
And I don't know if these go hand in hand or not, but meeting your wife, Crystal, and then your salvation experience, how does that,
I finally realized that I've got issues with putting drugs and alcohol in my body every day, and I've got an issue. You've got high addictions here, and it's not. Eventually, it stops working because your life is just in the toilet. So I eventually go to this place, and it's kind of like a place where you go get rehabbed. Mm-hmm. And then I go into the rehab place. I end up, a lady walks by. She's one of the shrinks type person. And I end up talking to a lady, and she wanted me to go into the program. And I'm like, at that point, I have hair. I have like earrings, and the whole ridiculous, part of my hair is purple, and I've got like I actually have black and red camos on. It's just
I'm just gonna say, if you're listening to this and you're like, I wonder what that looks like, he's dressed the same way today.
Yeah, there you
He has camos on and the
purple hair.
It's just you're just this lady wants me to pay money to go on this thing, and I'm like looking at her like, do you look like you want me to put this on a come up with a payment plan or credit card? Or I was like, this is just ridiculous. That for some reason, I probably stupid enough to think that if you go someplace for help, that they weren't going to charge you tens of thousands of dollars.
They just want to help out of the goodness of their heart.
Yeah.
Welcome in.
And of course, I deserved it, and so, so I walked out of there. On my way out, guy walks up to me and goes, "Hey, man, you doing? You look like you could. You're having a tough day or whatever, something like this." So I looked at him and I say, "Well, who told you that? You figure that out on your own? What are you, Dick Tracy?" I was like, "Awesome, man." And he's going, he looks at me and he goes, "I'll talk to you." And I go, "I don't have money for a shrink." And he goes, "I'll meet you for $35. I don't know why $35, but he's just like $35. And I was like, okay, I can do $35. So we met at Pizzeria Uno on Federal Highway in Fort Lauderdale. And he listened to me talk for 2 hours about how society was the problem. And so the guy finally listens to me for 2 hours and says, "Bro, you could possibly be the most self-centered, self-absorbed human being I have ever met in my life.
Wow.
And I needed that. I didn't need, I'm sitting to myself, what happened to love of the cross, That guy was just basically going, I'm going to punch you right in the face because you need that.
What was your reaction?
Oh, I didn't say anything.
Speechless.
I was speechless.
Paul Helbig, speechless.
But then he told me the gospel, which it didn't click, but I do remember somehow I went home and I slept.
What? You said it didn't click. What did click?
What did click is that I was just full of myself, and I was just full of garbage, and God was real, and somehow I was on his radar.
Wow.
And I went home and I slept. In my apartment with Eduardo and Brian, I think at that time, and then I slept for the first time without
Eduardo
getting.
and Brian got shout outs.
Yes.
On the podcast.
For the first time, probably, I don't know how many years I had not been able to sleep without being hammered or under the influence of something, but I slept.
And before that, did you even have any ideas about God at all?
I went to Catholic grade school. I grew up Catholic, which actually helps because to this day, I remember those stories. I remember the pictures. I understand the Moses, the basics from that. But we went to church, but we also, it seemed like you did the prodigal son. It feels like they taught that a lot, or I'd like to think about that a lot. Well, because everything turns out well. Because I would go to church in high school and I'd be like, it's just the same thing. I'll do that later, or whatever.
Right.
So you knew God was real. You had a sense that God was real.
Right.
But on that night, you understood that his eyes were on you.
Yes.
And that brought you peace.
Yeah. Somehow, yeah.
As we take a brief pause, here's a quick word from our TBS students.
I love the Bible Seminary because of the focus on the inerrant Word of God.
I choose the Bible Seminary because the classes are rooted in the Word, the academic excellency of the professors, and their heart for the spiritual well-being of the students.
At this moment on the campus of the Bible Seminary, we are cultivating biblical leaders that are rooted in the Word.
I'm a novice when it comes to teaching the Word of God. So I'm excited to learn and develop this craft and ultimately brings God all of the glory and honor.
I love the Bible Seminary because I can attend class at the main campus or any of the remote locations and connect with incredible professors.
God led me here. It's a great group of believers, and I get to study what I'm most passionate about, and that's archaeology.
I came to the Bible Seminary in 2019 out of a desire to know the Bible, really desired solid, trustworthy leadership that would foster my growth as a believer, but also as a potential minister to others in the future. And I found that at the Bible Seminary.
Whether you're a ministry leader, college or high school student, pastor, or simply have a desire to learn the Word of God, there's room for you at the Bible Seminary. Let's rejoin the conversation.
Yeah, that brought me peace, and that led to I started to run. I mean, I'm snorting coke, which cocaine is not an amphetamine. Cocaine will get you high. You'll go up, and then you'll crash. So I guess it has momentarily has amphetamine effects, but that's how it gets you in. It's like the sales, I'm going to give you that, and then but then you'll do anything, And if you start freebasing that, which I eventually later on, before that I did that stuff, and I was like, that is just insane. So I start running. That's when I get done with the run, and this girl pulls in, and I think it was in a white Chevy Cavalier or something, and Crystal comes out of the car, but she was a Lutheran school teacher, and so Crystal, what she would say, that's my wife now, she would say that she would never do this. She would talk. She said, "So do you run?" She goes, "I would never talk to a guy," and I said something obnoxious like, "No, just stand out here in the parking lot and sweat," or something stupid. And she was like, I could see her she didn't think that was clever. Not amusing. But anyhow, we ended up starting to run.
Well, I think the cool thing is that, that's an OG move, man. Just running with your girl. I love that. I mean, who runs, getting to know somebody you're running? I mean, that's just amazing. That's fun.
Well, yeah, that
makes it interesting.
I mean, when I'm talking to Crystal, we start running, and I'm like, first of all, she to this day. I mean, we have 6 kids. Mm-hmm. She's going to be running another half marathon or marathon.
She's amazing,
and she's just a doll. Yeah. And she was born with a tan, and I mean, we're in South Florida, and I'm just like, this girl's awesome.
Well, you must have impressed her somehow.
She asked me to come over to her apartment. She cooks dinner for me, and I'm like going, what is that? I mean, it was great, but it was just so, she's so homespun. And so, and then eventually we get talking about the gospel, and she asked me what the gospel was, and then I couldn't answer it well. She starts crying. Now, and I'm not having romantic inclinations here, which is weirding me out. She starts crying and hugs me, and she's German, so she's not Mrs. Hugger, and she goes, "I just can't stand the thought of spending eternity in heaven without you." And I was like, she buys this.
Oh, beautiful.
She believes this. This isn't a bunch of crap. Beautiful. So, and then we ended up going to Calvary Chapel, Fort Lauderdale. Bob Coy. We saw a church go from literally the church it was probably 300-400 people. You had to get there early to get a seat. This guy was a hoss. And that church ended up getting to be 20,000 people. I'm just watching this guy going, this is more important than anything I've ever seen in my life. A guy who can I feel like he's reading my mail, those kind of preachers. And she goes, and I'm not saying anything. She never talks in church because she's Crystal. And she goes, if you grow up, you could do that. And I was like, that was huge. It's amazing when people say something to you that...
Words have power. Words have power.
Because when I teach today, to this day, you're going to teach somewhat like the people that the people who made the most impact on you. I have somewhat, I imagine Coy's style, this, that, the other thing. But yeah, so yeah, and then Coy is teaching. He's teaching Matthew 9:35 through 10:20. It was Father's Day, and basically it says, and Jesus had compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. And he gives the gospel presentation, and I'm going, I'm in, but I couldn't get out of my chair because just pride.
Oh, yeah.
And pride about what? Like I say, I've got nothing, but I'm still prideful. I could not get up and go forward, but I sat there that day and realized I don't have the right language in those days, but it was, I deserve punishment, and Jesus took my punishment. And that's what I got. So he's the wrath giver and the wrath taker. You've got a problem, Paul. You have problems with God. God solved the problem.
What year are we in? What year was that?
Let's say 28, 29 years ago.
Yeah. And then from that moment on, just
and that moment on, after I came to know the Lord, I just couldn't get enough. I also ended up over a library because I was going, okay, if I buy this, I I wanted to know what other people, because I read accidentally, I'm just reading my Bible. I'm just eating it up. I remember reading, I am the way and the truth and life, man. No one comes to the Father except through me. I'm like thinking, I'm going, if that's true, everybody else is wrong, except for this. And I know that today we don't want to talk about those things, but that's really what it comes down to. But so I'm like going, if I'm going to be part of this club, I better figure out, for the most part. Then I looked at different people. And I also grew up in a place where the Church of Christ, the Mormons started their gig 20 miles from where literally my front door. That's where he saw the golden tablets and all that kind of stuff. Then you had the burned out district down in Dresden. You had people, the Millerites, that you go up on top of the hill because Jesus is going to come back, but he never comes back, but you just change the date. And so there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, now, if you're interested, there's a Parks and Rec, they have a part of that in one of their episodes where they have that. And these people waiting in the park for their maker to come back. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah,
have you watched that?
Rec is, I'm always going, is Parks and Rec in The Office is pretty much as good as it gets.
Yeah, I think so too.
Well, it's clever.
Well, yeah. Who's your favorite character on Parks and Rec?
Of course, Ron Swanson.
I'm so glad you said that. I was hoping for Ron Swanson or Andy Dwyer, one of those guys. I mean, Ron is just amazing. Everything he says reminds me of my dad.
the Pyramid of Greatness or whatever.
Yes.
I ended up going on a trip after I came to know the Lord. So I went on that trip. And that's when I met Lou Wilson, who was a guy that I was sitting on a dirt floor. I'm reading through the book of Romans. And then Lou goes, so what are you reading? And I'm like, this book called Romans. And he's like, so what is it about? He knows what it's about. But so I'm like going, if I've got this right, the first 3 chapters are basically like everybody's screwed. And they all deserve it. Just think about reading Romans without doing it properly. Mm-hmm. You're naughty by nature, man. You're a scumbag. And so the way out of this is faith. I've said, I do think that he uses a couple guys to illustrate this. I said, it's some guy named Abraham, a guy named David. So he's doing Genesis 15 and Psalm 32, but I don't know. And here's how you actually do this. And then Lou goes, who taught you that? I go, no one taught me. I was just reading it. He's like, you, because we were getting close. He's like, he's like, man, you have an uncommon gift, and you have a gift to communicate really well. And he goes, if you don't get some training, you're going to be really dangerous. Ooh. So that's how. So I come home. I've just got 2 years later. I'm in Haiti again with Lou, and that's when I come home and I'm going, how about what do you think about moving to Houston? Me going to Bible college. And so that's how we ended up in Houston. Because Crystal's like, cool.
It's time for our Student Spotlight. This month we talk with Sharon Stubblefield, a 2019 TBS MDiv graduate, and hear how she is actively living a life of evangelism.
Shannon, we just want to hear, what has God released you into? What are you doing?
I'm really enjoying getting with people. I'm having my very first Bible study in my home, believe it or not, focusing on evangelism. And we are learning all the things and focusing on all the things that Jesus did and that he told us to do. And then we're practicing it in our Bible study, reading about, studying it, marinating on it, and then making appointments to go put it in action here in our community.
So the heart of it is gospel sharing and evangelism as a lifestyle, not
Correct.
just as a let's go do this on Sunday and go talk to my neighbor on Sunday, but to really live a life.
Right,
of
not
evangelism.
just another Bible study where we're going to have snacks and and then we go on with our lives. No, it's a ongoing thing. We're meeting to pray together additionally during the week, worship together additionally during the week, and then also go out, gospel sharing, making appointments and being intentional and putting into action all the things that God is teaching us, and then asking God, like, what will you do? We've made this appointment and we're dedicating this time to you. Have your way with this time, and who would you like us to talk to? Where would you like us to go? And it's been really amazing to experience these things and trust in God. It builds our faith. And we get to laugh a lot because, things go funny sometimes. And so it's been just a real encouragement, I want to say, all the way around.
Yeah, it is a little, not daunting, but for some people, just to step out in faith and to learn, first of all, how to hear the voice of God, and then to step out in faith and follow the Holy Spirit as you're led in that.
Right. So with sharing the gospel, like actually sharing the gospel, I've only done that once so far since I've learned all these things. But sometimes you might give a word of knowledge to someone, or you might give a prophetic. Sometimes one time I prayed for a young girl. I think it was a pretty significant thing that God did, sending us to go find her and pray for her. I think it made a real difference in her life. I don't want to go into details because it was a private moment, but I'm just trusting that God is doing a lot of amazing things. We have received so much, and I know there's this one song that about God leaving the 99 to chase after me. And when I have my hands held high and I'm overwrought with emotion, thinking about all the times that God chased me down to love me and lead me and get me back on track. And then now to know that He is sending me out and He's training me to multiply so that I can help others, break free of the bondage of things that they're caught up in so that they can chase after that one too. And I just think God is doing something really amazing in our community in the Katy area. And even in Texas, I know a lot more of these multiply groups are starting, where people are studying that God has always wanted us to multiply. And you just go back to Genesis, and He always wanted us to be fruitful and multiply. And that doesn't just mean having kids. I mean, these are like our spiritual children that we are blessed to, give them the opportunity to say yes to an eternal blessing, like better than any Christmas present we could ever give, better than even, because we can't even bear these many children. Like, if we are doing what God asked us to do, and we think about the promises that were made to Abraham, we can birth more children through multiplying in this way with gospel sharing than we could ever do with actually bearing children in our womb. We couldn't even adopt this many kids. So there's like an enormous possibility of hope for being able to tell people about Jesus and give them an opportunity to say yes and receive their salvation.
It's beautiful. Shannon, your passion is contagious, and we're going to pray for you as you step out into this ministry. Thanks for visiting with us today. We hope to have you back.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to come.
Let's rejoin the conversation.
So when Lou was telling you that in Haiti, did Crystal's words come back to you?
Yeah. I mean, because I'm like sitting there. Well, first of all, it's nice to be. It's the first time I realized I was good at something that wasn't. Because I'm like selling pot to freshmen and sophomore girls for $1 a joint, and I always have money in my pocket. But I mean, it's like the first time that you're really going, you have something you have a gift at something, you're good at something. Well, I asked this when I do discipleship. Like I said to Stephen Walker, Stephen, what are you good at? He just at first they don't know what to do with it. Because I can't, if I say, hey, Blake, what are you good at? Well, what you're thinking is, can I answer that honestly? Right. The bottom line is, yes, God paid the ultimate price to have a relationship with Blake Quimby. How much are you worth? Karen is worth. It's based on what she's been paid for. If you pay the ultimate price to have Karen or Blake or Paul, you must think they're pretty amazing. And if they're pretty amazing, that you don't just leave them out there to dry. God's given you things. We do them in the endless. Let's have the gift sermon that never lands. Let's get rid of the gift sermon. Let's do this. What are you good at? Well, I sing, and I play the guitar. That's not normal. It just isn't normal. I don't sing and I don't play the guitar. I want to. Well, why does everybody like, music when I'm sitting there? I've got all my vinyls and I'm sitting around listening to everything from the Eagles, from Earth, Wind, and Fire. I mean, I like music.
Well, what's your favorite vinyl? What's your favorite record all time, Paul Helbig? What do you got?
I would have to say Gratitude by Earth, Wind, and Fire. Wow. Hotter Than July, Stevie Wonder. And Off the Wall, Michael Jackson. I'm so old, and that I actually saw Michael Jackson live.
Wow. Where was that at?
Rochester, New York. Mike ain't showing up to Rochester, New York no more. I mean, Off the Wall had just come out. I was one of the first guys who had it. I was on a basketball team. I'm playing Don't Stop Till You Get Enough and Rock With You. And I remember the two best players on the team that were older than me. He's like, keep playing this music, man. I mean, we're a bunch of white guys. I mean, I'm the guy who's going, yeah. And I was one of the first guys to actually start. I had friends that had like audio equipment. I'd be like, it would be cool if you brought in your speakers, and when we come out and do our warm-ups, we play music. I should be paid.
You are you're the
trendsetter.
Yes, you started that. And if you're listening today, that's exactly what we want you to know, that you started the intro for now every basketball team. Period. End of story.
But I also was able to talk to Jimmy Bulger, who's the best player in the league. I'd be like, Jimmy, it'd be like, you're doing that. And I did that before you. And come on, man.
Yeah.
Hit me with your best shot. You're going to come out with Pat Benatar.
Okay, one last question on the music. Who do you listen to today?
It's interesting. Hunter got me Spotify a couple of years ago, which is just amazing. Things that I listen to the most are still Stevie Wonder. Mm-hmm. It's still Michael Jackson. I still listen to the same bands.
The same things.
Yeah. Christian music, I listen to it a lot, is Ross.
Ross King.
Yeah.
Because he's just a better songwriter. I listen to his stuff. I bet you I don't go 2 days without listening to his music. And then, who is the girl? Knuckles?
Oh, Christine Knuckles from Watermark, old Watermark.
What a hoss.
Yeah.
Even some old Kidman's Call.
Love them.
Yeah.
But just looking at your story and seeing you coming to know the Lord, coming to know your wife, and you're married, and you're thinking of being a pastor and kind of going after that, seeking biblical. Yeah,
I come here and start going to the College of Biblical Studies, which in those days was the Houston Bible Institute.
My question to you is, why is TBS important for this day and this time?
Why I think it's such a big deal. What we're doing at the seminary is the answer to churches, and I dare say easily our nation, because you can come from different backgrounds and you can go, no, I don't agree with you. And what the seminary has done that everybody talks about I don't agree with you, but I can get along with you and respect you and love you. Everybody says those things. We've actually done it. And I think that's the answer to the church. I think it's the answer to the nation.
So last thing, just to kind of round out today. Yeah, we're thankful for your time and your family letting us come. I know you guys got a lot of stuff going on. And
I do got it. Yes, I have to end with a verse. If I was to preach one verse, I might preach this verse if I was to go someplace. It's Ephesians 1:19. And what is the immeasurable greatness of his power toward us who believe, according to the working of his great might. And the power toward us who believe is the resurrection of Christ. So the power that rose Christ Jesus from the dead, according to this passage, is in each one of us. Then the question is, what are we going to do with that? That's huge. I mean, it's not. What we think about is we'll turn that into when you're just trying to pump up the audience stuff. Motivational speaker. Yeah, that's the power that rose Christ Jesus from the dead is in us. That should make us really happy. And then what are we capable of doing? Anything.
Thanks for listening. Stay connected with us at thebibleseminary.org and subscribe to this podcast.